Stay on track. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but we'll see. Um, I just want to say thank you for coming and being here, being faithful. Um, Wednesday night crowd is your core group of people, and we appreciate you taking your time out and being here. And for those of you that wanted to hear Pastor and you're shocked, please don't walk out the door. Just stay with me, please. Again, I'm not him, so I will not be raising my voice. Maybe, I don't know. You never know what you're going to get from me, just so you know. But we don't really know what you're going to get from him either, do you? It's just always kind of crazy. Okay, so Proverbs 22. Last week, I believe he finished up with 21, so we will not be doing anything in 21 tonight. Even if he didn't finish, I'm doing 22. So just bear with me. I told him I was like talking for a whole hour. That's a lot, and I don't know that I can do that. We'll see. Okay, just bear with me. Proverbs 22, verse 1 says, "A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Wealth comes in many forms." A lot of times we want to think of wealth as being money, but a lot of times it's really not. Money does help a lot of things. I ain't going to lie and say it doesn't help, because if you're broke, it's not always fun, and you don't feel wealthy if you're broke, right? But it does come in different forms. The wealth of respect and recognized excellence in character. A good name is valued beyond great riches. As you can remember, probably your parents probably told you that you're no better than your name, right? Or, your reputation goes before you. And if you don't have a good reputation, you basically don't have a good name, right? Or your parents probably said, "Don't make me look bad," right? They had worked their whole life for their name to be a good name, and you come along and act like a heathen, you gonna make their name look bad, right? So a good name is greater than riches. Some people might not agree with that, but if you've worked and you've had a good name your whole life, you would see that differently, right? You would say a good name is definitely wealthy, or a good wealth. A good name, this good name proceeding from a good conscience, this honor from virtue. Isaiah 43 talks about it. This perfume of faith and obedience, this splendor and sparkle of the white stone which only shines upon heavenly hearts, is far more desirable than great riches. While it is true the reputation and the affection of others are more desirable than great riches, we must not forget that they may be in themselves vanity and snare. The only honor that is safe is that which comes from God, right? Some people will flatter you with good words. Some people will try to, we'll just say, get in your back pocket with flattery, for lack of better terms. But that's not always how it works, right? Your good name is not about somebody using flattery or just trying to soften you up or speak good things to you. The honor comes from God. The best honor and the safest honor would be from the Lord himself. Loving favor rather than silver and gold. The man or woman who appreciates the value of a good name or favor with God and man recognizes that it is worth more than silver and gold. So the favor of the Lord is much greater than any kind of riches that we can have. Riches are enjoyable, but till death at utmost. So you can only take riches as far as the grave, right? But a good name actually will follow you after you're gone. Even a good name outlives the man and is left behind him for a blessing. Basically leaving a legacy for your family, for your children and your grandchildren. That's what a good name is something that you can leave behind. And it's not necessarily about your name, but it's giving honor to God and He's saying that you have a good name, right? Loving favor. Our Lord carries this teaching a step further in Luke 10 and 20 to show that at a still higher level, not the power we wield, but the love in which we are held is our proper joy. Luke 10 and 20 talks about instead of my terms, is instead of thinking that the spirits are, bowing to your name, it's better to have your name written in the heavenly or in the book of life rather than even if you can come and cast out spirits in your name or the Lord's name, that's not what it's about. It's about having your name in the Lamb's book of life and making sure that you have made heaven your home. Verse 2 says, the rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. Sometimes we want to think that people are beneath us. Have you ever been around somebody that has a lot of money, or you think they have a lot of money, and they're snotty? Okay, can I just tell you a little secret? I knew this guy that on the landscaping business, and he said that if you go into the ritzy neighborhoods and the ones that cannot afford to live there are the snotty ones. The ones that can afford to live there are the nice ones. That sounds opposite, right? You would think that they would be the opposite. But a lot of times, you don't even, we knew a guy in Saluda that was rich. I'm talking about the man could dig in his pocket and give you any amount of money, and you would have never known it. He wore T-shirts and blue jeans every day of his life. And, you would have never known the man had money. But he could outgive anybody, anytime, at any day. And never flaunted it. You would have never known it. But he and his wife both were very big givers. We used to do a VBS thing every year for VBS, and it would be the offering. And we would always do Clemson against Carolina. Of course, it would be Pastor because he's a Carolina fan, and his wife was a Clemson fan. And so she was like, Pastor, I got deep pockets. You just don't know. And every single year he had to wear a Clemson shirt because she always beat him. But you never knew that they had money because we think in our little minds that rich people are dressed to the nines everywhere they go. It ain't like that. Sometimes they're hidden gems to be in your corner to bless you and just to be there and do what God has called them to do. A lot of times when I know the Bible says to owe no man anything. Sometimes that's hard to do, especially when you own a home and things like that. But at the same time, being debt-free or not even living paycheck to paycheck, sometimes that is the only way we can live for the moment. Okay, I'm not criticizing that for anything because we have been there where it wasn't because we were overspending, it was just because our money was so tight, right? But when you are free to give freely and no amount, and I'm not saying that you have to be the richest among them. I'm just saying that when you are able to give and be able to bless somebody without ever expecting anything in return, that is a huge blessing for you because it is so much better to give than to receive. I don't know if you've ever been in that. How many of you have ever gotten a gift that you really didn't like? How much joy did that give you? And I know it is the thought that counts, right? But how many of you have gotten a gift that you were just like, seriously? I had a girl give me a gift one time, y'all. No lie. Promise you. She gave me something out of her house that she didn't even have the audacity to dust. And she had cats, and it had cat hair on it. And I was like, wow, you didn't think any more of me than to give me something off of your counter that you couldn't even dust? Really? Okay, I know it's the thought that counts, but at the same time, presentation is everything, okay? Just dust the thing, all right? Wash it down, dust it, all right? If you're going to do it, if you're going to re-gift it nicely, okay? But it's just the fact of if you're able to give, it is so much better to give than it is to receive. How many of you have bought somebody a gift that you knew they were going to love, and when they opened it, the joy that came from that, the joy it gave you? There is a difference. Can't you say that? I'll tell on my mom just for a second. She's going to be here Sunday, so don't tell her I told you this. But there was one time, what did you say? She'll know because I'll tell her when I talk to her. I told it in the youth a few months ago. So my mom, it was her birthday, and I was like, Mom, what can I get you for your birthday? Oh, nothing. How many of you know in this room that when somebody says, don't get me nothing, that is a lie straight from hell? Especially if it comes out of a woman's mouth. That is not the truth. And for all you men that are literal beings, that is not true. When we say nothing, that means the bare minimum, okay? A card and maybe our favorite candy, okay? So please, if a woman says nothing, buy her a card and get her some candy. That's the bare minimum. Nothing means the minimum, okay? That does not mean zero, okay? I learned that the hard way, in case you're wondering how I'm so knowledgeable on that topic. But anyway, so my mom, it was her birthday, and I was like, Mom, what can I get you? Oh, nothing. Quit lying, Mama. Tell me what you want. So she told me this one thing that she wanted in a specific color, okay? So I got her this one specific item, but it wasn't the right color because they didn't have the color she was wanting, okay? When she opened that gift, she didn't want it because it was not the right color. And she told me. Okay, I'm telling y'all how my mom is, okay? Don't tell her I said that. Don't think less because she's just, wow. Anyway, she was expecting the color she told me because that was the color I was supposed to get. But they didn't have that color. And so I just got her the next best thing. Well, it was the wrong color. It was the right size, wrong color. And she was so, upset, hurt that I got the wrong color. Not really hurt. She was just like, really? It's the wrong color. Wow, Mom, thanks. I was so hurt because I got her that gift and she wasn't appreciative, right? How many of us, and this has nothing to do with this topic, but how many of us are in the middle of when the Lord gives us a gift and we aren't appreciative? Or we are appreciative, but Lord, I don't have what she's got. I don't have what she's got. Or he's got a better gift than I do. It's a newer version. Or it's updated. Or whatever. How many of us do that and we're unappreciative of the gifts that God has given us? I'm guilty. I've done it. Lord, if I could just play the piano like Anthony Berger. I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but he is a phenomenal or was a phenomenal piano player. If I could do that, then Lord, but that gift is not for me. Why don't I take the gifts he's given me and use them? Just like you, the Lord gives you a gift. Why don't you use them? Anyway, going back to the rich and the poor. We think that the rich and the poor, we sometimes will look at someone that is out on the road that has a sign that says, hungry. We think less of them. And you might not ever say that. But you know, down in your heart, sometimes you be like, really? You know you ain't hungry? Right, girl. Or they sitting there with a whole dog. I'm like, ma'am, you could sell that dog and make you some money. Go get you a burger, right? Like, why you got a whole dog right there? Why are you trying to say you homeless? Like, you going to feed that dog, but you ain't going to feed yourself. Like, there's a whole wrong picture with this. But how do we look down on them? And it's not about us necessarily. We would never say, oh, we're better than them. But what do we look down our little judgmental noses and go, I would never do that? Or they're probably making more money than I am. I mean, they probably are. If you only knew, I make pennies. But anyway, but the one thing that the rich and the poor have in common is that the Lord created them all. That no matter how aggravated I get with somebody, even at work, I mean, I have been very much, convicted of the fact that, oh, Jesus, you love them too? Really? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, hello, we are all the same. He created every single one of us the same. And he don't love me no better than he loves the next knucklehead beside me that don't want to do work or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that homeless guy on the side of the corner, he loves him just as much as he loves the rich man sitting up in the, 10-bedroom home or whatever. Like he loves all of us the same. He created every single one of us the same. The exact same. We have the same things in common. Going back to this, the differences between rich and poor appear to be large in the present world. Jesus' story of the rich man and Lazarus highlights these differences. Yet, rich and poor do have the same things in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. Those who are rich and those who are poor share the same Creator. Yahweh has made all of us. Both rich and poor tend to see each other through stereotypes and should remember this towards each other. People often forget that this and make value judgments. They would do well to treat all people with respect. For God can easily reduce the rich and raise the poor. So whatever He has given you, He can also take away. You've often heard the saying of, what if you woke up today with what you praised God for yesterday? How many of us would still wake up with the same things that we have today, tomorrow? But a lot of times, if somebody is less fortunate or whatever the case may be, sometimes we want to get judgmental and look down our long noses and be like, oh, you're not as good as I am. But you don't know what they're fighting. We don't know what they're dealing with. They could have fallen on hard times. They could have lost their job. And then it'd be just a domino effect for their family to lose everything they have. They could have had a house fire. And even though people are generous, to rebuild a lifetime of things that you had is a lot. And for us, we don't know what people are going through. A lot of the people that are homeless, some of them actually choose to be homeless. We had a guy in my hometown that had a home that he could live in, that had a whole mama there, and he just would not stay. He lived on the streets. So some people choose that life, but there's a lot of people that don't. And even though everywhere says they're hiring, I've heard multiple people say, I have put jobs in, resume, application, and there's nothing. They won't hire them. Why? You must not be ready to hire then. Like, take the sign down. You know what I'm saying? So we have no idea what people are fighting. Sorry, I'm a little, but I mean, we don't know what people are fighting. They could have had a terminal illness, or their family could. And doctor bills, y'all are ridiculous. Like you think we high? Like I'm high maintenance. So look at the doctor bills; they high maintenance. Like whoa, really? It didn't cost you $85 to give me a Tylenol, okay? I'm just saying, like. I mean, for real, we have no idea what kind of hard times people have fallen on. And yeah, there does look to be crooks out there standing on the corner with their dog and their Nikes and their, and their Timberland hats and all the things going on. But at the same time, there really are less fortunate people. If you don't think so, come to the school and we will show you less fortunate people. They're not all that way. And sometimes the moms and dads are dressed to the nines and the kids aren't. Their priorities are very, very, very messed up. So even though when your priorities are messed up, sometimes that is your own doing. Sometimes it's not. And a lot of times we want to throw everybody in the same basket and just be like, oops, nope. And we just cut everybody off. And that's not really how we're supposed to be. We are all made by the same Creator. Verse 3. Okay, maybe I lied. Maybe I can't talk for an hour, but All right, Proverbs 22, verse 3 says, a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Right? A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. You might be going, what does prudent mean? It means shrewd, sensible discernment, or wise foresight. It describes someone who anticipates danger and prepares for it. Wisdom does not always engage in a fight. It knows there are times when the best response to evil is to hide and let the danger go past. Now, I don't know about you, but I know you cannot think this of me, but I have often been the one that wants the last word. I know that you don't think that of me, and you cannot ever fathom that I would be that kind of person. But I'm just going to admit it right now that I can be. I have learned over the last 21 years it's not always a good trait to have. But I might walk away and be like, okay? I got to have the last sound, the last something, okay? Like, I'm not that bad anymore, but a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. You don't have to add gas to every fight. Everything that pops up, every little fire that pops up, you don't have to add gas, okay? Our district overseer, Mark Campbell, says you don't have to add gas to every fire that comes out, okay? If you don't add gas, guess what? It don't grow. It goes away. And I'm like, okay, Lord, okay, I'm not going to add gas. I'm not going to add gas. I'm not going to add gas. You know, I kind of have to pray myself through that because sometimes I want to be like, just go, just douse it a little bit, all right? I try not to do that. I do try to use wisdom a little bit. If I don't, my husband will be like, no, don't. Godly wisdom helps believers avoid traps before they appear. So I don't know about you, but sometimes the Lord can warn you a little bit and be like, pump the brakes. We don't need the gas, okay? The simple or provision, let's say that prevision is the best means of prevention. Prevision is the best means of prevention. That's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like when you see a fight coming in the room, like you just kind of walk away. Like, I got to go. I need to stay safe today. I got to go. So the simple pass on and are punished. The foolish and simple man doesn't have the ability to perceive danger and respond correctly. They must endure more evil because of this, and it is something of a punishment. Right, like, ugh. But how do you become more wise? You get in the Word. Because when you are in the Word and you're reading the Word comes out. And it comes up. So when you're in danger, or when your spirit man perceives the danger before you, then it prompts you, and it pricks your heart, and it makes that come up and come out and be like, okay, Betsy, you really got to pump the brakes. Like, no, this is not where you need to go. Walk away, or whatever the situation is. All right, verse 4 says, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. By humility. A lot of times, like, when people say, oh, you need to be humble, we think, oh, we got to think of ourselves less than. That's not what humility is. Humility is thinking of one less. Not thinking less of yourself, thinking of yourself less. Does that make sense? So you're not at the top of the chain anymore. You might be 3 or 4 steps down, okay? If you remember, Jesus came at the bottom. He didn't come at the top with a crown on his head and be like, hey, I'm here. Bow down and worship. You know what I mean? He came here and served. He came here and walked among the people. He came here and did what the Father wanted him to do. It wasn't about him being high and mighty, which he was, but he didn't carry himself that way. He used his authority when he needed to, but he didn't carry himself in this, bow down and worship me kind of thing. It was more of like his authority followed him because of who he was in his humility. By humility and fear of the Lord, these two qualities are connected. Humility is a proper view of self, and fear of the Lord is a proper view of God. The person who has these two qualities is well on their way on the path of wisdom. Our riches and honor and life. Blessing will come to the wise man or woman who has humility and the fear of the Lord. They can certainly expect spiritual riches and honor and life, and often those same things materially in this world. Now, I will tell you this, that even though you walk in humility and fear of the Lord, it doesn't mean you're exempt from trials. I don't want you to think that just because you walk in fear of the Lord and you have humility, and those are great things to possess, but at the same time, it does not walking in a Christian life does not exempt you from having troubles and having trials. We still have to go through those things because you know what? That shows other people that you can still live for God and go through things. And that it will also, technically, when you walk through a journey of trials or whatever, it is actually showing who God is in your life. It's not about you. Your trial is about you, and your situation is about you. But in those moments when you're facing troubles and tribulations in your own life, that is so people can, because I'm going to tell you right now, if my strength came from what I had been through, I should be able to bench press a Buick by now, okay? But it ain't about me. It's about God. And so when people look at me, I'm like, girl, I don't know how I'm still alive either, but it's by the grace of God, right? It's because of him. It's not because of me. And every chance I get that somebody even talks to, how you doing? I'm great. You know what? The Lord has really blessed me, and I'm so fortunate. I know other people don't always have the outcome that I've had, but I am blessed, and I know it's because of God. And so we have to know that our trials and tribulations come, but we have a God that can help us through every single one of them. And it points to him. It points to the God that I serve. You know, I can sit here and say, it ain't me. I tell that to my doctor every single time I go in there, and he says, you had a complete, he just shakes his head and says, complete response. And I'm like, it wasn't me. And he's like, but you did it. But I didn't. Like, you don't know. Like, you don't understand. You're not understanding my English. It wasn't me. It was God. And I get that in his frame of work, he sees all the bad things. And I'm sure there's been lots of people to come in, name it, claim it, grab it, blab it, all this stuff, whatever that is. And they probably, and I'm just saying, like, they probably talk about, you know, speak it up. And I'm not claiming, but I'm like, Doc, I'm telling you, God did this. I showed up and I did the work. I get it. But he did the real work. I didn't do it. He did it. And it was only by him. Because let me just show you the prayer that people prayed. And this is what God answered. And I took him a prayer card and said, here, I need you to read it for yourself to see what the people that in my life prayed over me every day. And so I don't know if he read it. Whatever. I gave it to him. I was here. The Lord wants you to have this. Anyway, let's see where I was at. The most humble is the most triumphant Christian. He may be depressed, but he is highly exalted. He has the wealth of grace and of glory. Nobody can deprive him of these. Verse 5 says, thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his soul will be far from them. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. Proverbs 13 and 15 told us that the way of the unfaithful is hard. Thorns and snares symbolically describe the hard way of the perverse. Have you ever walked in a way with thorns and snares? Or, like briars. Have you ever walked through the woods and tried to walk through a thicket, for lack of better words? That is very hard. Like, you can't just walk through that without being stuck, tripping, acting like you ain't hurt. Yeah, right. Okay, you're going to get all cut up and all the things. So that is symbolically describing the hard way of the perverse. The metaphor, or if you want fewer temptations, change the road you're on. Sometimes when we're walking through hard places, such as thorns and snares, we need to look at the way that we're going and just reassess. Sometimes it is a way that you have to go because the Lord is just like, you want to be hard-headed, go ahead on through. But sometimes we got to change the way that we are doing things. Sometimes when everything is being thrown at us, everything but the kitchen sink, like, you have to turn around and be like, all right, let me reassess this whole thing because something ain't right. And maybe it's just me, right? He who guards his soul will be far from them. The wise man or woman keeping watch over their life or guarding their soul will stay far from the way of the perverse and the thorns and snares associated with that. Because if you go back to the verse a few minutes ago, that I forgot what it said. Oh, the prudent man, he knows which way to go because the Lord is speaking to him and the Spirit is driving him a different way than the thorns. If we guard our soul, then we are going to be led a different way because we're living a different way, right? Those who have the discipline of wisdom avoids life's dangers. Verse 6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Okay, that's like the old proverb, right? We've heard this 1,000 times. And when we say train up a child, it's like, oh, you better beat their tail. You better wear them out. I used to tell people, if you spank them from the ages 2 to 4 or 1 to 3, you won't ever have to spank them again. Look at Isaac. I'm kidding. Lord, don't. Lord, please don't prove my words to be wrong. But I used to say that all the time. Girl, if you will spank them from 1 to 3, you won't have to spank them ever again. All you got to do is look at them. We could snap our finger at Isaac. We would be in the Walmart. We had a friend of ours tell us, he said, whenever I would be in Walmart, he said, I would snap my finger if I need, because it was just him and his son. He was a single dad. And he said, if I snapped my finger, he knew I needed his attention. And I was like, oh, that's great. So from then on, we would, and I don't know about today. I can't snap my finger and Isaac would be like, what? But we used to could like snap our finger and he would be like, yeah. Because it would just he just knew. But that guy said, I would snap my finger and then pop him. When he was in trouble, he would snap his finger and then pop him. And we would do that to Isaac. So if we were in Walmart or somewhere and he was like standing over there and we needed his attention, we'd snap our finger and he would look. And so it was just crazy. But if you train your child up, now listen. I see a lot of children that ain't trained. A lot of kids that are not trained. We had one today. Somebody came and picked them up, and they was like, I just don't understand. This is ridiculous. I don't know where this come from because we don't ever see this at home. We was like, you are telling a whole lie. You are telling a whole lie. Unless you just put an iPad in front of that kid, you are lying. And we know it because he acts like this every day he's here. Every day. Anyway. Training is different than allowing them to raise themselves. Training them is different than just sticking an electronic in their face. Okay? Training takes work. Parenting, training children, training anyone is work. And it is a way of life. And it will be the hardest thing you ever do if you do it right and consistently. I say that all the time. If you do parenting right, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life because you have to be consistent. If you say no, I don't care if it kills every fiber in your being, you better keep a no. Because you know what? Next time, they're going to come back and be like, Mama, please, until you say yeah, because they know you can say yeah, right? Training is different. Training is discipline. Training is teaching them one-on-one, this is not what we do. Or, hey, son, this is what you do. You open the car door for a female. Let's start practicing with your little sister. When she rides with you, go open her door. Make sure she gets in the car safely. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to teach and train them. It is hard work. And just like in the Bible, it talks about, I think it's in Timothy, or maybe Titus, but it talks about the older women are supposed to train the younger women, and the older gentlemen are supposed to train up the younger gentlemen. Why? Because the Lord, that's how we teach them how to live for Christ. That's how we teach our children how to be good citizens in this world, is to train them, not allow them just to raise themselves. We see enough of that. All right. I'm working on an hour, y'all. A child needs training. The job of the parent is not to simply let him grow up any particular way, but to train him, and that is the way he should go. The way he should go has at least, I'm not going to read that part. Moving on. No two children are alike. So what I did for Isaac does not work for Izzy. And I say that because her daddy was with her a lot when she was little. We'll just stick with that. He's not here, so I can say whatever I want, right? No, for real. Anyway, we're going to let that be. They are not alike, though. Isaac is very easygoing. Isaac is like, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed. Izzy fights sleep forever. in a day. Like, we'll stay up. She procrastinates more than any human I know. Like, and I'm just like, for the love. Because it takes her an hour and a half to get ready to go to bed. And I'm like pushing the whole time. All right, go to brush your teeth. It takes her 30 minutes to finally go brush. And I'm like, for the love, your daddy should have spanked you more. I'm kidding. Anyway, sorry. But we have to train them. If you know anything about the military, you have to go through intense training for them to break you down from what you were raised in to build you back up in the way they want you to go. Right? So when they do certain things, you do them, or you suffer the consequences of what you didn't do, right? Even if you do it wrong, you and your entire people are going to suffer, right? For those of you that have been in the military, you know that if you might have to stay up till 3 a.m., or might have to get up at 3 a.m. in a dead sleep, with a trumpet. They're going to wake you up. I don't know if that's true, but it sounded good. But they wake you up out of a dead sleep. Why? To break you down. So the next time when you're in the middle of a war and they call out a command, you're going to do it because you know it's for your good. And it's for your best interest. That's exactly what we have to do for our children and our spiritual children. We have to, I'm not saying break them down. Lord knows we got enough manipulation in this world. We don't need it in the church, okay? But we do have to train them. We have to teach and train them. And sometimes that's what God has to do to us too. When we go through trials and tribulations, it is to train us to trust him. It's to train us to see him in a different way. Now, you have a choice of how you see him. You can either be bitter and angry with him, or you can be like, okay, God, this is for my good. I'm just going to learn. Help me to learn quickly and not be rebellious and move on and get this done quickly. And just learn the story, learn whatever it is that you need me to learn and get it done. All right, Proverbs 22. I think I hammered the train up a child. Does anybody have any misunderstanding? I'm kidding. Don't answer that. Just talk to the pastor afterwards, okay? He said I could do this so he could speak to the youth. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Sometimes it feels that way. If we get ourselves in too deep, sometimes it feels like we are a servant to the borrower. We're working to pay the lender, right? Sometimes if we are so stretched thin to where our money's just meeting paycheck to paycheck, it can feel like we are serving the lender. And God doesn't want us to be in that shape. He really doesn't. He wants us to do our very best, and that's what we strive to do. And he will bless you. And I will say this, that I was more broke when I didn't tithe than I ever was when I would tithe. And I know that sounds crazy, and if you feel like you can't tithe, I would just challenge you to somehow make a way. And I'm not saying you have to start out with 10%. That's what the Lord asks of us, is 10%. And my 90 goes a lot further than my 10, okay? And I know that sounds cliche, and you have to experience that on your own. But I will tell you, even if you have to start out with 2%, 3%, and build yourself up to 10% so your budget and your lifestyle, can breathe and do better, whatever, I would just challenge you to ask the Lord to help you to be able to give. And I'm saying first fruits. I'm saying when you get your paycheck, you don't spend a dime until you give whatever that money is that you can agree with the Lord on, to build yourself up to that. Because I'm telling you, it is a blessing that nobody else can give you if you tithe. The Lord will bless you in different ways. And I'm telling you from experience, your 90% will go a lot further than your 100%. The Lord has done it for me multiple times. I'll be honest with you, and I'm not trying to brag, but I paid, even when I was a sinner, I gave my tithing because I knew my 90 would stretch further than my 100. It never failed. He always got his money somewhere. I have a friend of mine that said, I told my husband we need to tithe. She was tithing on her money, but they had their own money, paychecks, whatever. So he wasn't tithing, and she said, "I'm telling you, the Lord gets it. Whatever he would have been tithing, he ends up buying a tire for a flat tire. He pays it in something else to fix something." And she said, "Would you just look at what God's doing. He's trying to show you that this money that you could have been tithing, you're having to use it on a flat tire or whatever it was. It was like several things that just kept happening. And she was just like, could you just open your eyes? So the Lord will show you things like that. So just pray about it and consider. Just, Lord, make a way that I can feel comfortable tithing and help me to build up to that amount. Because it really is a blessing that you cannot outgive God. God will give you back, I promise. And it may not be in money. He might not give you that $10 back on that 100, but he might give you good health. He might make a way where there seems to be absolutely no way. And I'm just saying that from experience. All right. I think we've already talked about enough about the lender and the borrower. Proverbs 22:8. He who sows iniquity will reap sorrow, and the rod of his anger will fail. He who sows iniquity will reap sorrow. A person's sins or iniquities are like seeds that are sown. In time they will bring a harvest, and the sinner will reap sorrow. The crop must be according to the seed. If a man sow thistle seed, it is likely he shall reap wheat. If he sows to the flesh, shall he not of the flesh reap destruction. So if we reap destruction, if we sow discord, if we sow all the things, if we sow anger, if we sow bitterness, if we sow all these things, we're going to reap that. We're going to reap the destruction of that. But if we sow good things in good soil, then we're going to reap good things and blessings from the Lord. Proverbs 22:9 says, he who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. We've talked a little bit about giving tonight, and just goes back to the whole gift idea. It sounds so like cliche, but it really is true that it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. And when you're able to give, even if you look at the woman with the widow's mites that went and gave her, no, that's not the story. The woman that went in and gave her last little bit of money to the house of the Lord, and she gave more than any of those that dropped all those billions of coins to make all the racket in the pots. You know, the Lord says she gave the most because she gave out of her own need. Again, I'm not trying to tell you to take off of your own table and give so you're hungry and they're not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that if you see something that somebody needs something and you can give them, even if they're truly hungry, they will receive a loaf of bread from you. Or if they're truly hungry, they will receive that McDonald's meal that you can go and purchase for them. It doesn't mean that you have to hand them your checkbook or your debit card. It just means that you can give them something. And if you don't feel comfortable giving someone cash, that is fine. Then you can say, you know what, if you're hungry, tell me what you want to eat and I'll go get it and bring it back to you. I'm not saying put them in the car with you either. Do what? No, ma'am, I'm not giving you money to go get you something that you don't need. But if you're truly hungry, if you truly see a need, I know like at school, there's kids that need jackets. There's a ministry that comes into the school and they, I don't know exactly what it is, but they ship us jackets. And there's several, they help several schools in the district, and they just give like nice winter coats for the children. Or, just book bags, donations, like just different things. You just never know what those things are going to help. Or, even like nursing homes. We'll just go away from the school and say like nursing homes. There are people in nursing homes that nobody ever goes to see. And so even just simple things such as socks or lotion or things like that some of the elderly people there that depend on some of that stuff, just things like that there is a need. Or if there's somebody, I'm sure there's plenty here in our own local community that can use help. We've helped with the school here. We've helped with the school in Harleyville. So there's different things that we can do to help. And those that have a generous eye, meaning if you are generous and give and do things unto the Lord, then he will bless you for that. For he gives of his bread to the poor. One important way to express our generosity is to give to the poor and needy. His generosity is simply sharing, for he gives of his bread. You know, a lot of times it's kind of hard. Sometimes it's hard to see who the needy really are today, because you have scams that stand on the corners and say they're hungry when they're really not, or whatever it is. So sometimes it is hard to tell the difference between who is who, but a lot of times they do have a reputation. You know, sometimes real needy people aren't going to tell you they're needy. A lot of times they won't even speak up. They'll suffer in silence. And so if you know somebody that's truly in need, you can share that with us and with others to help provide that need too. All right, Proverbs 22:10, cast out the scoffer and contention will leave. Yes, strife and reproach will cease. Cast out the scoffer and contention will leave. The scoffer who spreads cynical discord causes contention. When the scoffer is cast out, then contention also leaves. That also can go back to when you know that someone is sowing cynical discord, don't add fuel to it. That's why we have to be super careful of who we listen to, because I'll say this. I had somebody in my life one time, it was a family member, and when they didn't like certain people, they didn't want you to like them either. I'm sure we all know somebody like that. But I found out, in growing a little older and a little wiser, that just because they offended you don't mean they offended me. And I get it. We family, we blood. We should, I should be offended when you offended. No, I can't live my life like that, because I don't want to be having to look around every corner to see who's behind me. You know what I mean? So just because one person feels a certain way about somebody doesn't mean you have to feel that way, right? You have to learn who those people are on your own. So casting out the scoffer, sometimes that's in your own life. You have to say, I'm not listening to that. I'm done with that, and it will stop the contention. Sometimes we just have to say, devil, I'm not listening to that. And it's not necessarily the person. Sometimes it's the spirit that's using them, right, to cause issues with you or discord or whatever it is that is going on. Sometimes it's a spiritual thing. Not everything spiritual is spiritual. Not everything that is dark means that it's really dark, and the devil does. I'm not saying darkness is not the devil. I'm just saying, like, everything is not spiritual. But at the same time, when someone is sowing discord or causing issues, you don't have to listen, and you don't have to be a part of that. Okay? We can choose to be like, I'm drawing a line, a boundary right here. I'm not joining that. And you can still be respectful and loving and all the things. You just don't have to join into the stuff. Strife and reproach will cease. The atmosphere of strife and shameful insults or reproach stops when the divisive scoffer is gone. This reminds us that an atmosphere of contention, strife, and reproach is caused by people. We cause that. Proverbs 22:11. He who loves purity of heart and has grace on his lips, the king will be his friend. He who loves purity of heart and has grace on his lips, inner purity often shows itself through grace-filled words. These two are marks of godly, wise men and women. Okay, I'm not graceful with words at all. Maybe I just need some more purity in my heart, because I'm not very graceful at all. And so I'm just joking. I'm not graceful, but I'm not joking about that part. But I'm joking about the other. The king will be his friend. The true godliness and wisdom, both on the inside and in spoken words, will make friends in high places. It will certainly contribute to ongoing fellowship with God, for such a person walks in the light as God is in the light. You know, some people you meet, they are just so loving and positive, and they are just so kind, like honey just drips off their lips. I'm not that person. Okay? But there's just some people, it's just like Laura Price. She's just so, like, attack it. Just so sweet and just so I don't know, like, I can't even describe them properly. But they're just so sweet and so loving and just so, I don't know, just sweetness oozes off of them, I feel like. And I'm just like, hey, I'm here. But, we can see the Lord in their life by the way they carry themselves. And the king will be their friend. You will know them because God is on them in their life, and you can see God in them. Proverbs 22:12, the eyes of the Lord preserve knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the faithless. The eyes of the Lord preserve knowledge. God sees and takes note of and guards those with wisdom and knowledge. In this sense, it can be said that his eyes preserve knowledge. He overthrows the words of the faithless. For the faithless fool, they can expect that God would turn over their words. He will not stand with or support their faithless words. Have you ever been around somebody that is negative Nancy? Oh, I'm just doom and gloom, and I just had a horrible day. Do you want to be around them? You don't have to tell me. Nobody wants to be around negative Nancy. Like, oh, I don't want to talk too much because people might listen, and I don't want to. But y'all, like, it's so bad it works. I want to put a sign over my desk that says positive words only. Like, no negative vibes. We don't want none. Like, get away. Like, it is so bad some days. And I'm just like, please, Jesus, help me, because it's so bad. And, like, I'm like, man, it must be so nice to be so perfect. Like, but nobody wants to be around the negative Nancys. Nobody wants to be around the faithless people, right? When you come to church and has ailments, oh, I'm so pitiful. I just walk away because I don't want to give you no attention, because nobody likes that. I mean, if we're all honest, you can hear it once and you might pat them on the back. But the next time you're like, again? You're not over that yet? Get over it. Let's go. You know, like, I get it when you're going through hard times. Come on now. But some people just never mind. I'm moving on. Y'all looking at me like, Lord, y'all about to call the overseer and be like, get her out. Let's see. He overthrows we already said that. All right. God causes their distortions of the truth to be shown for what they are. Okay, moving on to 13. The lazy man says, there is a lion outside. I shall be slain in the streets. Lord, if that ain't dramatic, I don't know what is. There is a lion outside. Okay, first of all, lions don't roam the streets. This is the cry of the lazy man. In his imagination, the outside world and the work required to function in it are so frightening that it is best avoided. His excuse is crazy and absurd, but such is the refuge of the lazy man. The lazy man says, in both texts, the slothful man is represented as having something to say, and I think that there are no people that have so much to say as those that have little to do. Where nothing is done, much is talked about. Have you ever heard that there's 20% of the people that do the work and 80% of the people talk about it? Or complain about it, should we say. There are 20% of the people that work and 80% talk about it. That is so sad, because if those 80% would just help do the work, we wouldn't have to do so much, right? Many hands make light work. All right, we won't beat that dead horse too long. All right. I thought somebody muted my mic, because when I said something, it sounded like it faded out. Anyway, the lazy man exaggerates the dangers and troubles outside his door, especially those connected with work. In the streets, really? In the streets, which is added to show the ridiculousness of his excuse. For lions abide in the woods or fields, not in the streets or towns or cities. So, we are almost done. I got to leave something for Pastor next week, right? I think the lazy man or woman should look to the Lord for victory over their sin. Your lion is in the way. Shout then for a friend to come and help you. And within call there stands one who is a wonderful lion killer. There is the Son of David. God can always help us even when we're in the midst of troubles. But don't be ridiculous and say lions are in the streets. Sometimes it feels like it when you have a lot to do. But anyway, let's pray. Lord, we thank you, God, for your word. Thank you, Lord, that you show grace to us, Lord, and even in all of our imperfections, Lord, you are still with us and you are before us. And God, I just thank you that we have a covering from you if we have our hearts set on you, God. Lord, I pray that you would just touch every person in this room tonight, God. I thank you for the sacrifice of time that they come out and gather together. Lord, I just pray that your word would not return void, Lord, not because of me, but because of how good you are. Lord, I just thank you for your goodness and your mercy. And Lord, we just pray that your word, God, would just touch our hearts and that it would help us to be better, God, for you. Help it, Lord, to be like a sword and fix us and cut us up where we need it. And Lord, and to help us. And Lord, I just pray that we would dive into your word, God, that so your word, whenever we're in trouble, whenever we're in danger, whenever we're facing hard situations, Lord, your word would come up, Lord, and your word would come out, God, and it wouldn't be all the negative things and all the negative things that people say, but it would be what you say and what your word says, Lord, and that we can trust you in the moments when we are struggling. Lord, I just pray that you would just bless each one that's here tonight.